you lost me on the no true Scotsman thing there, because the the issue I'm having here is you're saying that they the people in the past, they violated the Christian ethic, but that's what people in the future are going to say about Christians today, and the claims, like political or whatever, that they make, and they ground it in Christianity, and they'll say that there's the violation, or that they violated it as well. That's what I think is the pernicious contradiction in all of this. So
Well, even if that fallacy, like even if I granted for a second, just for the sake of argument, that it was the no true Scotsman fallacy, it still actually wouldn't be a contradiction. There's still no proposition and its negation happening at the same time. Well, all that would happen is that you could point out that I made some sort of fallacious argument, like, oh, they weren't real Christians. However, the thing is like, if you follow any ideology on planet Earth, if you're a utilitarian, for instance, but you're not acting in a fashion which is utilitarian, you're not following the normative framework of utilitarianism, it's very easy for me to say, okay, UID is a utilitarian, but you're violating the ethical purviews of utilitarianism. That's not a no true Scotsman fallacy. It's an objective statement of truth.
That's a categorical imperative type of notion that I'm hearing there. I mean, anybody
it's
can
not an
fall
imperative.
short of
That's not
anybody
Kantian
can fall
ethics.
short of anybody can fall short of what they claim they believe in. We do that all the time.
Yes.
But
well, Christianity actually adjusts for this inside of its normative
what you're
ethics.
doing in what your belief is.
So yeah, you understand Christianity actually has an adjustment for this. The idea of you shall know them by their fruits. So essentially, we can tell when people are violating Christian ethics, and our duty is to bring them back to the fold of Christianity. So when you point to just a particular of a violation of Christian ethics, that does not mean that this is on the back of Christianity. That would be a no true Scotsman fallacy. So if you're trying to say because Christians did this, and the Christian here, are saying, well, wait, they aren't real, you would actually be making that fallacy. So the thing is, like, to back it up, just so you understand, if you violate your ethical purview with self ID, that's not a no true Scotsman fallacy for me to explain that inside of the religious purview, in this case Christianity, we know them by their fruits. That's what we know them by, and we have the particulars in order to make those judgments.
The problem there is, I'll say this and I'll just move on to the last thing. You're kind of, I don't know if I would call it begging the question or whatever, but you're telling them they violated, but you're ascribing your ethic onto them and saying they violated it, instead of understanding that according to them, this is the ethic.
So then, as long as people groups at that time who are Christians also claim that they violated it, you would have no case? Does that even make sense to you?
I didn't catch that.
So if Christians at the time condemned that as being non-Christian behavior, then you wouldn't have an argument, right?
For that particular thing, but it's not as if
right. Except you still would.
Positions.
That's the problem, though. You still actually would have an argument for that particular thing. That's why the argument has no merit. It has no merit simply because you're pointing to.
I disagree.
You're pointing to a particular. And then you say, based on the particular, can we not look at our normative framework and see if people stepped outside of the particular? And it's like, yeah, of course we can. Of course. You do it all the time. Everybody does that normative framework. We have to. By the way, begging the question would be if you had a proposition, and then inside of the proposition, you put essentially what the conclusion was in the proposition itself, which is not what we're doing.
I know what begging the question here is. My last thing, though, is there anything that only a Christian is capable of believing in besides like the specific claims about like the divinity of Christ?
I don't actually understand this question. So pretend I'm a fifth grader and you're asking it to me so that I understand it.
That's time, although you can...
No. Let him finish his question.
Yeah, this is the last thing. I'm not really sure how to simplify it really, but is there I'll just ask it again. Is there anything that only a Christian is capable of believing in?
Only a Christian is capable of believing in. I mean, I don't think so. I guess if I understand what your question is, can anybody believe in anything? Is that the correct way to maybe rephrase
No,
that? No?
I'm specifically trying to get at, is Christianity privileged? And my time is up, so I'll just end with um, the point I'm trying to make here. And you say no. I think the answer is no as well. And then I think that that's kind of devastating for, well, Christianity doesn't, we don't need it in government, because if anybody's capable of believing whatever it is you're trying to get the government to do, then anybody can believe it. And it's not sourced via Christianity.
That's a very confusing argument to me as well, and I would love to dissect it, and I guess I can in a second with my cross-examination. But I'm just trying to understand. I guess I would need more clarity to even understand what you were asking. But anyway, if you're ready for the cross-examination, I am too.
So we'll be moving into your cross-exam now. It'll be 30 minutes as well. If obviously, feel free to reclaim your time. If something's going on, you can ask questions, get back on topic. Let me know when you're ready, and I'll go ahead and start your timer. And once again, try to answer the questions directly and concisely.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I'm ready when you are, Mr. Peterson.
Perfect.
So I hope I answered your question satisfactory as I think I could. I hope you do the same for me. So, starting with this, do you have any problems with Christians being in government?
No, to the extent that a Christian holds, like, so because it's not should Christians be in government, it's Christianity.
I know. Just so none of these are going to be loaded, and none of these are going to be gotchas. I just want to make sure that I'm clarifying a couple things. First and foremost, just yes or no. Do you have any problems with Christians being in government?
No, because to the extent that a Christian holds beliefs and they act on them and whatever those beliefs are, to the extent that those beliefs overlap with the limits of government put in the Constitution, that's not a problem. I don't think it's a contradiction.
And inside of the Constitution, what can you explain very quickly what the process is for an amendment?
You need, I don't remember the specific numbers. You need 3/4 of the states to ratify it. As far as Congress, I don't know if it's 2/3 or what.
Yeah. So there's multiple ways to make an amendment.
It has to be ratified by the states for it to count, because we famously had this recently. There's something Joe Biden was trying to get in there, some equal protections thing. And
you think 3/4 of the state came together for every amendment in the Constitution, really?
I mean, historically, like, weird things have happened. There didn't used to be primaries 100 years ago, but now we do have them.
Yeah. So anyway, so back to this. By the way, that's just factually inaccurate. But the thing is like, that aside, we'll just leave that aside for a second. Let me just ask you, and I'm reclaiming my time on this. I'm kidding. Let me just ask you this. If Christians then, if you have no problem with them being in office, if there was such an overflow of the numbers, because that was the representation that people wanted, they voted in Christians, and they made an amendment to, like, I don't know, get rid of the First Amendment, which they're completely well within their rights to do. What's the problem with that?
So our Constitution has a system where you can amend amendments, the 21st or 2nd, whatever, undid prohibition.
Well, no, you can just undo amendments altogether.
Yeah, with amendments. But I mean, the problem with, I think the problem with this is, that wouldn't be, if you amend the First Amendment, then I can just say, well, then we can just re-amend it because it was wrong of them to amend it in the first place. So
Sure. Yeah, you could re-amend it after you get power back. But if Christians actually have power, what is your actual argument against them amending the First Amendment, which is prescribed in the Constitution that they can do?
I don't have an argument that they can't do it. The First Amendment says that is something that can be done.
Should they not be able to do that?
Well, it's kind of weird because we have an establishment clause. So if they did that,
well, yeah, I mean, but we used to have a slavery clause, right?
Then it would be.
But hang on, Mr. Peterson, we used to have a slavery clause, right? And we amended that.
You used to have a slavery clause?
Yeah, we used to be able to own slaves. That was yes.
That's not no, none of the first 12 amendments said you can own slaves.
Okay.
That's completely false.
I'm sorry.
And
hang
actually,
on. Back up.
slavery
Hang on. Stop.
wasn't
Stop. It's
abolished
not your
by the 13th Amendment.
cross-examination here. Okay. Just
I know,
just so that you
trying to
know,
answer.
though, just so that you know, you do realize that there were state constitutions which said you can own slaves, right?
Before secession happened,
Mm-hmm.
it specifically said that they could own
Yeah.
slaves. Okay.
Yeah. Specifically, and also, you do realize there was a 3/5 clause, right?
Yeah, people counted as 3/5 of a
Mhm.
person.
So all those things need to be amended, right?
Well, if the Constitution gets changed, then that becomes federal law, and then it supersedes the state constitution.
Right. So at the federal level, if Christians went ahead and amended the First Amendment, what's the problem?
Well, I think it would be wrong because I think that's a violation of what the First Amendment says.
Yeah,
And
but
normatively,
wait, that's circular. The Constitution is set up so that we can amend amendments, yes or no?
yeah,
So if it is the case that it's set up for us to do that, if Christians have power and you have no problem with Christians having power and they amend that amendment, what's the problem?
because the framers of the Constitution set up the ability to amend the Constitution with respect to being able to produce a better, a more better union, or however they
Yeah,
say
but
it.
that who are
But
you to
they
determine what's
specifically-
better? Who are you to determine that? Wouldn't it be
Well,
the
I'm just
people
telling you
who
what
are elected? You want people to be elected by their constituency, yes or no?
Well, yeah,
Okay, and if the people who are elected by their constituency are Christians, you have no problem with that, yes or no?
no.
So then if those people who are elected by their constituency want to amend the First Amendment, that is the process that you want to be allowed to happen, right?
No, because
No?
you didn't let me. You didn't let me
What?
finish my answer.
Okay, go ahead.
Right, because the framers of the Constitution, they built that system, and there are people that said we don't want a Bill of Rights. That was the first election. That was the one of the biggest issues up for that, because we didn't have a Bill of Rights at first, but they did that in order to. They thought that was their way that in the future they'd be able to keep having a more functional, a better union, a better constitution, a better government. But they initially said no, no state government, because that will.
Well,
that
I don't know.
create
So,
dysfunctional
that's very
government.
undemocratic.
So it would be in violation.
Mr.
of
Peterson,
what
that's
the purpose
undemocratic.
of the
Do you
amendment
agree
was
with
in the
me that
first
that's
place.
not democratic? For you to say that we cannot change the First Amendment by democratic means, that's actually undemocratic, correct?
No, I don't think so.
What? Well, I don't understand. Is the capacity there for us to do it? Is it written into the
Yeah.
Constitution that we can do this? And you don't have a problem
Yeah.
with Christians being elected by their constituency.
No.
So what is your actual problem with Christians changing this if it's within the very system that you want them to change it in? Literally, your system is, I want to elect person goes in representing the constituency. All these people get together and they amend the First Amendment. That is the system that you want, right?
I don't want them to. The idea that amendments can be made means that I have to accept that the First Amendment should be amended. Is not a real case.
No. You don't have the should. You have the shouldn't. I want to know why it is that Christians shouldn't do that, other than because you don't like it.
Because, well, it'd be a violation of the spirit of the purpose
no,
of a
It
constitutional
doesn't sound
republic.
like it. It sounds
And
like the
we know-
purpose of a
we know that-
constitution. No, it doesn't sound
Yeah,
like
but-
it. Well, hang on.
Yeah, but
How would
Andrew,
it violate the purpose of a constitutional republic if this is the framework of the constitutional republic, sir?
Because a government is supposed to outline a constitutional republic, sets limitations, and like there are other things that like it allows.
Yes,
for,
I
or
agree.
whatever.
The constitutional
That
republic
makes
sets limitations, and in these limitations, it says that you can amend the First Amendment. Yes or no?
Yeah, but
So
you're
this
not
is the
supposed to
system you
amend it
want, dude.
to trash